Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We're going to continue reading today from Sri Isopanishad. We are on mantra 10. We had already started reading the purport by Srila Prabhupada. So I'll just quickly read the translation and we'll continue with reading the purport. This is the 10th mantra of Sri Isopanishad. The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nations. So we were hearing that what is knowledge? Srila Prabhupada tells us that what Krishna is telling us what is knowledge, and that is in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And then we go on to read the purport. In the modern society, even a boy thinks himself self-sufficient and pays no respect to elderly men. Due to the wrong type of education being imparted in our universities, all over the world are giving, boys all over the world are giving their elders headaches. Thus, Sri Isopanishad very strongly warns that the culture of nations is different from that of knowledge. The universities are, so to speak, centers of nations only. Consequently, scientists are busy discovering lethal weapons to wipe out the existence of other countries. University students today are not given instructions in the regulative principles of brahmacharya, celibate student life, nor do they have any faith in any scriptural injunctions. Religious principles are taught for the sake of name and fame only, and not for the sake of practical action. Thus, there is animosity not only in social and political fields, but in the field of religion as well. So what Sri Isopanishad is trying to tell us, what are we cultivating? Are we cultivating knowledge or are we cultivating nations? Now, one may argue that we do need modern education because we are, after all, living in this material world. We need to know how to be able to survive. That's okay. Yes, we need this modern education that we are receiving. We need that to survive in the world. But side by side, let us also cultivate knowledge, spiritual knowledge, knowledge of Bhagavatam, knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, knowledge of God, knowledge of our relationship with God. So material knowledge, yes, is important for us to live in the world. But after all, we are spirit souls. So we also need to know spiritual knowledge. So if at any time anyone has a question, please do ask whenever. Nationalism has developed in different parts of the world due to the cultivation of nations by the general people. No one considers that this tiny earth is just a lump of matter floating in immeasurable space along with many other lumps. In comparison to the vastness of space, these material lumps are like dust particles in the air. Because God has kindly made these lumps of matter complete in themselves, they are perfectly equipped with all necessities for floating in space. We don't realize that this one Earth is just one of the planets, of the innumerable planets of the universe. There are countless planets in the universe. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us information about all these planetary systems. But we are not actually taught much in our schools and universities because we are not able to understand how many planets actually there are. But Bhagavatam is giving us this information. And what is this planet Earth that is floating in the air? It is fully equipped actually for all our needs. The oxygen that we need is given to us by plants. The condensation that is taking place, the sun is evaporating the water from the oceans, giving us pure water in the form of rain. So all this is God's management. This earth is created by God. The sun, moon, stars are created by God. And it is arrangement of God. And that's another thing that we, by our activities, are spoiling the natural balance of the earth. That's another thing. But who is the creator? It's God. Because God has kindly made these lumps of matter complete in themselves. They are perfectly equipped with all necessities for floating in space. The drivers of our spaceships may be very proud of their achievements, but they do not consider the supreme driver of these greater, more gigantic spaceships called planets. So our planets, they are also rotating, they're revolving. The speed of Earth, the speed at which the Earth rotates is fantastic speed. And then if we were to drive at that speed, we would be dizzy. But we can see, although the Earth is rotating, everything is steady. Nothing is like we don't feel dizzy or anything. It's such perfect arrangement by God. We get proud that, oh, we created such a fast car, we created such a fast spaceship. We get proud of such things. But what about these planets and how they're moving in their orbits? There are innumerable suns and innumerable planetary systems also, as infinitesimal parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord. These small creatures are trying to dominate these unlimited planets. So, who are we? We are spirit souls, and we are part and parcel of God. This is what Isopanishad is trying to explain to us, that we are not God, but we are part and parcel of God. We are trying to we are trying to be the controllers. We are trying to pretend that we are the supreme, that we are the creator, but actually that is God's position. So thus we take repeated birth and death and are generally frustrated by old age and disease. The span of human life is scheduled for about 100 years, although it is gradually decreasing to 20 or 30 years. Thanks to the culture of nations, befooled men have created their own nations within these planets in order to grasp sense enjoyment more effectively for these few years. Such foolish people draw up various plans to render national demarcations perfectly, a task that is totally impossible. Yet, for this purpose, each and every nation has become a source of anxiety for others. So what Prabhupada is trying to explain to us is we are so busy trying to say, I belong to this country, I belong to that country. We are busy making these boundaries and borders. But how long are we even going to live in this body? In Kali Yuga, a human being is allotted 100 years, but we see we don't even live that long anymore. So more than 50% of a nation's energy is devoted to defense measures and thus spoiled. No one cares for the cultivation of real knowledge. Yet people are falsely proud of being advanced in both material and spiritual knowledge. So we are busy with our material things, but what about real knowledge? Who we really are? Are we the body or are we the soul? What is our relationship with God? Who is God? What does God look like? All these are spiritual matters, matters pertaining to the absolute truth. Sri Isopanishad warns us of this faulty type of education, and the Bhagavad Gita gives instructions as to the development of real knowledge. So Sri Isopanishad is giving us a hint about God, Upanishad, bringing us closer to the Supreme Lord. And Bhagavad Gita, when we are going to read that, we are going to see that, oh, wow, God is speaking about himself, There's so much knowledge available. This mantra states that the instructions of Vidya knowledge must be acquired from a dhira. A dhira is one who is not disturbed by material illusion. So who shall we get the knowledge from? As we say that we want to become an expert, we want to become a doctor, then we go enroll ourselves in a medical university, study under a medical teacher, then train under a doctor, and then we get certified to be a doctor. Similarly, we want knowledge, real knowledge. Then we need to study it from the devotee, somebody who is liberated, because he has the knowledge, so he can give us the knowledge. Just like one wants to be a doctor, he goes to the medical university to learn. So somebody wants knowledge, somebody wants spiritual knowledge. One has to go to the pure devotee. No one can be undisturbed unless he is perfectly spiritually realized, at which time one neither hankers nor laments for anything. So this is a liberated soul. The devotee, a pure devotee, is liberated. He's perfectly understood his position as spirit soul, part and parcel of God. And because he's realized his spiritual position, nothing material disturbs him. He's understood he's not the body, but a spirit soul. Adhira realizes that the material body and mind he has acquired by chance through material association are but foreign elements. Therefore, he simply makes the best use of a bad bargain. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining us what is a bad bargain. We getting this material body is a bad bargain. Now one may say, oh my God, how can you call this a bad bargain? This is me, ourselves. But we have to understand that we are not the body. We are not the mind. We are the spirit soul. We shouldn't be in a material body. We shouldn't have a material mind. Our true nature is to have a spiritual body, a spiritual mind. But now what to do? We find ourselves in this material body. So it's a bad bargain. What to do? Okay, we engage in devotional service. We have this body. Let us engage in devotional service so that we can go back home, back to Godhead. We can revive our spiritual body, our spiritual mind, our spiritual identity by engaging in devotional service. The material body and mind are bad bargains for the spiritual living entity. The living entity has actual functions in the living spiritual world, but this material world is dead. Now one may say, oh, why you call material world dead? It's alive, things are moving, what's happening? What we have to understand, what is this material world made of? This material world that we are so attached to, so attracted to, so much in illusion with, what is it made of? It's made up of dead matter. Earth, water, air, fire, ether. All this is dead matter. And what we see, all the things around us, is just different combinations of this matter. Our bags, our homes, our laptops, our phones, our cars, is just different combinations of matter. What is actually moving is the spirit soul. That is us. We are inside the body. That's why the body is moving. Once we leave the body is dead. So as long as the living spiritual sparks manipulate the dead lumps of matter, the dead world appears to be a living world. Actually, it is the living souls, the parts and parcels of the Supreme Living Being who move the world. Like a car. A car can just sit there. It's not going to drive by itself. Now one may say, well, now I have auto drive. I have autopilot. Yeah, but still someone has to press the button. So a living soul has to move the dead matter. Dead matter is not going to move by itself. Like, even if to make a building, to make a house, suppose we keep all the earth, water, cement, fire, whatever is needed, we just keep it there. It's not going to assemble by itself. It can't, because it's dead matter. Somebody has to come. The soul living entity has to come, has to assemble, put it into shape. So this is what Isopanishad is trying to teach us. There's a difference between us, we are the spirit souls, and the material world is made up of material elements. And these material elements have no consciousness. It is just matter. It's the spirit soul that is conscious. The Dhiras have come to know all these facts by hearing them from superior authorities and have realized this knowledge by following the regulative principles. So those who are steady, those who have knowledge, How did they get this knowledge? Not that they were sitting under a tree and one day they got the knowledge. No, they learned this knowledge from their teachers, superior authorities. This is the way of receiving knowledge, hearing from the spiritual master. Where did he hear from? He heard from his spiritual master. Where did he hear from? He heard from his spiritual master. Like we are hearing from Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada heard from his guru heard from his guru, coming to Lord Caitanya, coming to Vyasadev, to Narad Muni, Brahmaji, Krishna. The original speaker of knowledge is God. We cannot be the original speaker of knowledge because at the beginning of Isopanishad, we said that we have 4 defects. Does anyone remember what are the 4 defects?
No, I don't think.
Nina, you remember?
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
Nina
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, go
Okay,
on, Veena.
No, Veena said she doesn't remember. Maybe you remember, Nina?
Yeah, it's committing mistakes,
Yeah.
cheating others,
Yeah.
imperfect senses,
Yeah.
and
Imperfect.
the 4th one is being in illusion.
Being an illusion. That's right. Each of us is an illusion. So if we are an illusion, how can we have perfect knowledge? So because of these 4 defects, all the knowledge that we have is going to be defective. So we cannot be making any religious principles, any spiritual knowledge. So how will we get that? We need to hear from God. God is the original speaker. The Vedas are originally spoken by God. Tene Brahma Hridayaya Adi Kavaye. That's the first canto, first chapter, first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Srila Vyasadeva is referring to the Supreme Lord Krishna, that Krishna spoke the Vedas into the heart of Brahmaji. Brahma then gave this knowledge to Narad Muni to Vyasadeva, Vyasadeva to Madhvacharya, coming down in this disciplic succession, coming to Srila Prabhupada, and we are hearing from Srila Prabhupada in this disciplic succession. So they hearing in the disciplic succession and by following the regulative principles. Following the regulative principles, hearing, chanting, worshipping, following the 4 regulative principles. So to follow the regulative principles, one must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. The transcendental message and regulative principles come down from the spiritual master to the disciple. Such knowledge does not come in the hazardous way of mission education. So, like how a child, he doesn't know anything. So he asks the father, what is this? Father says, it's a microphone. So the child is not perfect, but his knowledge is perfect. Because it's a microphone, the father is telling him the microphone, the father's knowledge is perfect. So the child may not be perfect, but because he has heard from the perfect source, his knowledge is perfect. Similarly, we are not perfect, but if we hear the perfect knowledge from the perfect source, then we can have perfect knowledge. And that's the reason it's so important to hear in the disciplic succession, to hear in the parampara, to hear from the bona fide spiritual master. So we can receive the knowledge intact, the pure knowledge, and not something which has been misinterpreted, misrepresented. One can become a dhira only by submissively hearing from a bona fide spiritual master. Arjuna, for example, became a dhira by submissively hearing from Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead himself. So Arjuna, he was an illusion. He was refusing to fight. What did he do? He heard Bhagavad Gita from God himself. Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad God, Gita song. Bhagavad Gita is song of God. So it is the word of God spoken by God himself. Krishna is the supreme Lord. He is God himself. He's speaking the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. So Arjuna heard the Bhagavad Gita from the perfect source. He heard it from God himself. Thus, the perfect disciple must be like Arjuna, and the spiritual master must be as good as the Lord himself. Now, when we are saying spiritual master must be as good as the Lord himself means what? Not that anyone can become God. No one is equal to or greater than God. Neither can one become equal to or greater than God. But when we are saying the spiritual master must be good as the Lord himself, means the knowledge is perfect. Like the child's knowledge is perfect. Child is saying this is microphone. The father is saying this is microphone. Child is saying it's microphone. So the knowledge is perfect. So if we at all want perfect knowledge, we need to hear from the bona fide spiritual master, the true representative of God, to have this perfect knowledge. This is the process of learning vidya, knowledge from the dhira, the undisturbed. Because the spiritual master has to be liberated. He has to be undisturbed. Only then can he give us the real knowledge. So here we are reading Srila Prabhupada's books. We are hearing his teachings. So it is perfect knowledge. Who did he hear from? He heard from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Who did he hear from? Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Thakur. Who did he hear from? Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Today is in fact the day of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. A very auspicious day. So he is a great acharya in our line of Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And a great devotee, a great personality, written so many books, great preacher. Today is his appearance day. So he's written so many bhajans. Wonderful personality. So, and Adhira, one who has not undergone the training of Adhira, cannot be an instructive leader. Now, if someone has not trained to become a doctor, he didn't go to the university, didn't study under a teacher, didn't train under a proper doctor, can he give training to another? He won't, he can't, because he's not efficient himself. He's not proficient himself. It's not that one just picks up a book, studies the medical books by himself and says, okay, now I've become a doctor. No, the books are there, but we need to go to the teacher, a proper teacher, the one who's certified. You see, we don't just go to any university. We don't say, search something from the internet and say, this person seems to be knowing how to teach medical science, so I'm going to send my children there. No, we say, no, I want to send my children to the best university, something that is certified by the Board of Education. So we should also be careful who we are learning the spiritual knowledge from. We need to learn from the Dhira, a bona fide representative of God. Modern politicians who pose themselves adhiras are actually adhiras, and one cannot expect perfect knowledge from them. They're simply busy seeing to their own remuneration in dollars and cents. How then can they lead the mass of people to the right path of self-realization? Thus, one must hear submissively from adhira in order to attain actual education. So if we at all want spiritual knowledge, we really want the real knowledge, we need to hear from a devotee. Dhira means one who's steady, one who's already liberated. He's self-realized. He's understood his position as spirit soul, part and parcel of God. And his activities are all for the pleasure of God. We need to hear from such a person. So that is a pure devotee. So hearing from the pure devotee Because the pure devotee has perfect knowledge, he can give us perfect knowledge. Just as we say, the child, he hears from the father, this is microphone. So then the child's knowledge also becomes perfect, although the child is not perfect. But because he's hearing from the proper source, the knowledge is perfect. Are there any questions or comments? So Isopanishad is trying to help us understand that we are not the body. We are the soul. We are different from this matter. The material world, we are different from that. We think we are the body, but actually we are the spirit souls. The body is made of material elements: earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego, the senses. But all those are material. But we ourselves, we are consciousness. We are the soul. We belong to the superior energy of God. So this is what Isopanishad is trying to elevate our consciousness, telling us to rise in our consciousness above the knowledge of matter. We have a lot of knowledge about matter, but Isopanishad is trying to tell us to cultivate knowledge of the soul, of the spirit. Yes? So, I don't know, shall we start the next mantra, or did anyone want to discuss anything or any comments?
Not discuss, but I just wanted to say I would like to go through the previous one because I have been very irregular. So I would like to see. I have the book, so I'll go through it. I don't want to start the next one yet.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So you will be reading it by yourself?
Yes, because I
Yes.
missed quite a few of the initial ones. So
Okay.
I'll read through. Then
Okay,
we can
thank you.
do the
You mean the mantra 11?
correct.
Okay.
I don't know about others. If they want to continue, it's fine. But it is
Okay.
very understandable. There is nothing which is beyond.
Okay, good. Thank you. So we have about 9 minutes remaining because we end at 45.
Correct.
So we have about 8, 9 minutes. So that's why I don't know if anyone had any questions or any comments. And if not, then we begin reading, you know. Okay, there's something on
Correct.
the chat. Okay. Priya has to leave. That's all right. Thank you for joining us, Priya.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, okay, let's read. Since we are all collected here, we'll see. We won't be able to get much, but we'll see. Read as much as we can. Vidyam cha yas tat vedo bhayam saha avidyaya mrityum tritva vidyaya mritam ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. So Isopanishad is saying, yes, cultivate nescience means material knowledge and also learn spiritual knowledge side by side. Learn both to get out of this material world, to understand what is material, what is spiritual, and no more birth and death again. No need to take birth again in the material world, but go back to the spiritual world. Go back home, back to Godhead. Since the creation of the material world, everyone has been trying to attain a permanent life, but the laws of nature are so cruel that no one has been able to avoid the hands of death. No one wants to die, nor does anyone want to become old or diseased. The law of nature, however, does not allow anyone immunity from old age, disease, or death. nor has the advancement of material knowledge solved these problems. It's true, no? I mean, see, none of us want to become old, but we can't stop it. We are becoming old. We don't want disease, but we can't stop it. Disease comes. And we don't want to die, yet death comes. So no matter how much we try our best to remain permanently in this body, we can't. It's just the nature's laws. Material science can discover the nuclear bomb to accelerate the process of death, but it cannot discover anything that can protect man from the cruel hands of old age, disease, and death. So, we can create creams, we can create so many different treatments which help us to look young and not look old, but there is still a limit to that, It still shows. I mean, how much can you do? Old age just still keeps coming and coming. We try to get more and more medicines, but then yet newer and newer disease come. And then at the end, finally, death has to come. From the Puranas, we learn from the activities of Hiranyakashipu, a king who was very much advanced materially, wanting to conquer cruel death by his material acquisitions and the strength of his nations. He underwent a type of meditation so severe that the inhabitants of all the planetary systems became disturbed by his mystic powers. So, Hiranyakashipu, a great austerities, such austerities never heard of. Millions of years he's standing there, that his whole flesh is eaten up. His life air is being sustained only in the bones, only in the skeleton. Such difficult austerities we've never heard. And what he went to do? Why did he want to do that? Because he wanted to become immortal. But we hear that still he couldn't become immortal. He did such austerities, he forced the creator of the universe, the demigod Brahma, to come down to him. He then asked Brahma for the benediction of becoming Amar, by which one does not die. Brahma said that he could not award the benediction because even he, the material creator who rules all planets, is not Amar. So Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to get the mercy of Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma, he came to him because Hiranyakashipu was doing such terrible austerities that there was like a terrible fire coming from his head that was going to burn the entire universe. So Brahma was kind of forced to come and meet him. And Hiranyakashipu tells him, I did this austerities, now I want something in return, and that is that I should never be able to die. And Brahma said, but I can't give you this benediction. Why? Because I have to die myself too. So Lord Brahma, he is the greatest personality in this universe. He's the most intelligent. He's the oldest personality in this universe. He's our creator, after all. He's called the secondary creator. When we hear Bhagavatam, we can understand Lord Brahma's position, that he's the secondary creator. But even Brahmaji has to die. He lives for a fantastically long time, some 3 trillion some years in human years, fantastically long time. But as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 8.17, Brahma lives a long time, but that does not mean he is immortal. So Brahma is a post, like how the chief minister of a country or the prime minister or president, it's a post. Any citizen can apply for that post. As long as one is qualified, one will be appointed to the post. So Brahmaji also is a post, is a living entity, a soul who is qualified to act in that capacity, and then he is appointed as Brahma. But not God. God is not a post. No one can be appointed in the post of God. Only God is God. No one can replace God, or no one can become God. No one can become equal to or greater than God, because being God is not a post. God is a person. So Hiranya means gold and Kashipu means soft bed. This cunning gentleman, Hiranyakashipu, was interested in these two things, money and women, and he wanted to enjoy them by becoming immortal. He asked from Brahma many benedictions in hopes of indirectly fulfilling his desire to become immortal. Since Brahma told him that he could not grant the gift of immortality, Hiranyakashipu requested that he not be killed by any man, animal, god, or any other living being within the 8,400,000 species. He also asked that he not die on land, in the air, or water, or by any weapon. And what is Hiranyakashipu? Now he wants to be immortal, so he's telling Brahma, okay, so then you grant me that no man can kill me, no animal, no god, no living entity within the 8,400,000 species. There are 8,400,000 species of life. So he's saying none of these species should be able to kill me, nor any demigod should be able to kill me. And then he said that I should not be able to be killed land, air, water, no weapon. And in this way, what did Hiranyakashipu think? He thought he has escaped death. Because he thought, oh, I'm so intelligent. I asked for all these boons like a checklist. And he foolishly thought that these guarantees would save him from death. Ultimately, however, although Brahma granted him all these benedictions, he was killed. He was still killed. Killed by who? Killed by the personality of Godhead in the form of Nrsimha, the Lord's half lion, half man incarnation. And no weapon was used to kill him. So Hiranyakashipu thought he's smart. He's going to outsmart God. And what happens? God comes. God comes to kill him. He takes a form, half lion, half man. So this form is not of any demigod. It's the Supreme Lord himself. It's not within any of the 8,400,000 species, and he didn't use any weapon. He killed by his nails. He didn't kill him in the land or air or water. He was killed on the lap of Lord Nrsimhadev. So Hiranyakashipu thought that he's smarter than God, but no one can be smarter than God, Nrsimhadev outsmarted him. God outsmarted him. So we'll just reach this. The whole point here is that even Hiranyakashipu, the most powerful of all of materialists, could not become deathless by his various plans. What then can be accomplished by the tiny Hiranyakashipus of today, whose plans are thwarted from moment to moment? So Hiranyakashipu, such a great personality, done so much austerity, so much penance, so much qualification, so much benedictions. Even he was killed by God, according to God's, by nature, the laws of nature. Then what about us? We are tiny Hiranyakashipus. We are making plans, and our plans are destroyed time and time again. So we will continue reading what Isopanishad is trying to tell us, not to make one-sided attempts to win this struggle for existence. Everyone is struggling hard for existence, but the laws of material nature are so hard and fast that they do not allow anyone to surpass them. In order to attain a permanent life, one must be prepared to go back to Godhead. So we cannot have permanent life here in the material world. We want permanent life. We are looking for permanent life. We are looking for permanent happiness. For that, we have to go to the spiritual world, the kingdom of God. We have to go back home, back to Godhead. We'll stop here for today. I'm not sure if anyone wanted to add or comment anything. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in.